For me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to the command post. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. Of course, I'm your commander-in-chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. So the Washington Commanders have updated their roster. They have set their practice squad essentially. At the time of this video, 15 guys have been signed to the practice squad. None of them are surprises. I went through every single guy that was released last night after the show with Rio and Ed, and I made a list. It's a brief list because a lot of the guys that got cut, honestly, aren't needle movers for me, per se. There were a couple surprises that I didn't know of. I'll mention those names, but I'm not interested in those names either. I'll tell you the three guys that piqued my interest, and I would love Washington to take a flyer on. But let's go through the list of guys that are on the practice squad as we know. Now, 16 guys are eligible to be placed on the practice squad. There are 15 names here, so there's still a spot remaining on the practice squad at the time of this recording. Again, things could change by the time this video comes out. But Alex King Blue was a guy that I thought would be on the practice squad. Casimir Allen, guy that we knew was going to be on the practice squad. Alex Arma, we knew he'd be on the practice squad if he didn't make the team. William Bradley King, we were debating this last night, thinking that his run might have been over. Remember, I had made a list of guys that I thought would be back on the practice squad. He was on it, but I didn't know if they were done with him or not. Clearly, I thought he played well in the third preseason game, to be honest with you. I thought it was him and KJ Henry who played the best in that third preseason game. So they're going to hold on to Will Bradley King. Mason Brooks, we knew was going to be on the practice squad. Terrell Burgess was a guy that I was banging the table for as a back end of the roster type of guy. So I knew practice squad was definitely in his future if he didn't get picked up somewhere else. Obviously, they liked him. So did I. He's on the practice squad. Tariq Castro Fields was a guy that I thought should be on the practice squad. I felt like of the corners that they were still kind of mulling over, he was the one that I thought kind of separated himself, even if very slightly from the rest of the pack. I thought, and he has that size and athleticism that they're looking for, and he's the guy that they went out and got last year during the waiver claims period. So I don't think they're ready to give up on him, nor should they. I think he actually has a little bit of talent. Jake Fromm, we knew he'd be back on the practice squad. Derek Gore was a guy we talked about last night, that if they were going to keep a running back on the practice squad, I think we all came to the conclusion that it was him. It wasn't going to be Jared Patterson. They cut him super early. I thought Jonathan Williams is getting up there in age, and honestly speaking, y'all said that he was placed on IR. So I thought the natural name was Derek Gore, and that's who they end up keeping. Dejon Harris. Remember, we were debating Dejon Harris or Milo Eifler, and I said, I think it's Dejon Harris. They cut Milo Eifler day one, which I didn't see coming. There's your answer, Dejon Harris. Jarrett Jones-Smith, I didn't see him coming. I did not see him coming. He was always on that last wave of offensive linemen to get in the game. I didn't think they would hold on to him. Nolan Laufenberg was the guy I brought up last night. Everybody kind of just dismissed him. I fell victim and prey to that. I knew that they liked Nolan Laufenberg. I should have stuck to my guns, but they kept Nolan Laufenberg, and I'm not surprised by that. Benning Poto Ai, I'm going to get that. Benning Poto Ai is a guy that we all like. He's flashed numerous times, even back in the Dallas game, week 18 last year. And so he's back on the team. I just like him a lot. Bryson Tremaine, we talked about him. He's the Cam Sims replacement. Size, a little bit of athleticism. We saw how much they were playing him at the back end of the games. I talked about this last night with Rio and Ed. It's not a surprise he's on the practice squad. And Nick Whiteside, the second, I'm shocked by this one. Because he didn't really flash for me, but I heard that he actually had some good practices. But I didn't see him perform in any games. I thought Jace Whitaker or somebody like that, maybe Rashad Wildgoose would be in his place. Since they seem to love Rashad Wildgoose so much. I'm glad they finally gave up on the Wildgoose experiment. Let the goose loose. They finally did. Nick Whiteside II is the 15th name. So they've got one more practice squad roster spot remaining. We'll see what they decide to do with it. But so I made a brief list. I went through every single guy that was cut, and I made a list of guys that I would be interested in if I'm Washington. And there are things that you have to take into account. Like, I looked at certain rosters with real intent. The Kansas City Chiefs, got to look at that roster with intent, just in case they cut a guy that EB loves and has known, from his time being in Kansas City. Always got to look at the Buffalo Bills cuts very closely because Ron believes in their program. He loves Sean McDermott, and he likes the way that they do things. So you're looking there hard. Jacksonville's another name, really close with Doug Peterson, loves their program. And so you got to pay attention to that, a little closer. But 3 names emerged for me. Now, let me just talk about some of these surprise cuts that I looked at and said, interesting, but I'm not interested for them here. Chosen Anderson. Remember, we talked about him as a guy in Miami, wide receiver position, formerly known as Robbie Anderson, that, he gives them a trio in Miami. All of a sudden now, they don't have a trio in Miami, unless I'm missing a guy that they have that they really truly like. Robbie or Chosen Anderson hasn't been as dynamic in the last 2 or 3 years of his career thus far, and he's been bouncing from team to team. Maybe there's a reason. I don't think he necessarily loves football, but at the end of the day, I'm still surprised that they cut him. They no longer have a trio that's better than Washington. They were one of the teams that was ahead because of their duo. All you had to do was add a guy to it, and it didn't really matter who that guy was. They were ahead of Washington. Now I'm not allowing that shit to fly. So I was surprised by that. Another surprise cut was Cam Sims in Vegas. A lot of you brought that to my attention last night. I had no idea that he had gotten cut. I figured they went out and got him in free agency. They saw his size. They were going to utilize him. Apparently, they had other guys out there that they liked more than Cam Sims. He's not a spring chicken, but he's not super old either. If Scott Turner were still the offensive coordinator here, I think he would be back here. But I don't think there's any usage for him here in Washington because it's a brand new system. He'd have to learn it, and he doesn't know any of it right now. And so I don't think they're going to double back. And one thing we've seen with Ron and company is when they move on from a guy, like move on from him. Not like John Bostic, hey, we'll keep in touch. No, when they move on from a guy, they usually don't double back. I.e., Landon Collins, Eric Flowers, that sort of thing. They usually don't double back, okay? So I don't see them doubling back and going out and getting Cam Sims. And then another guy that got cut that was surprising to me was Bradley Roby. He's a veteran, though. I didn't realize he was 31 years old. That automatically rules him out here in Washington. Because one thing what we've seen with Ron and company, Mark Mayhew, Marty Herney, and some of the staff that they have is that they don't go after guys that are old. When they in this process right here, they're looking for young guys. Guys that have been in the league 1 or 2 years, guys that are 24, 25 years old, 23, guys like that. They're not looking for 28, 29, 30-year-old guys. And definitely not 31-year-old nickel corners like Bradley Roby. But I still was surprised he got cut. So these are the 3 names that stood out to me and stuck out like a sore thumb. And I mentioned one of them last night. Jabril Cox of Dallas got cut. We went to that well last year, got us a gem in John Ridgeway. Jabril Cox was a guy that I was very, very intrigued by coming out of North Dakota State. Dallas spent a 4th-round pick on him in the 2021 NFL Draft. So he's very young. He's only 25 years old. I think he is what you're looking for at the linebacker position in today's NFL. So, again, may not have fit in Dallas's scheme. Dallas has a ton of athletes on defense. They may have felt like he was a very dispensable athlete at the linebacker position because they've got speed everywhere. We don't have speed everywhere, and I think Jabril Cox would be a welcome addition to this football team, practice squad, whatever. He's, to me, a guy that I would be interested in. Another guy that I would be somewhat interested in, a little bit older, he's 27 years old, but still not super old, is Amani Oruwariye, the former Detroit Lions 3rd or 4th round draft pick out of Penn State. He was cut by the New York Giants this offseason, or this preseason rather. So I would be interested in Amani Oruwariye because of what he brings to the table. He's 6'2", long arms, fits the DNA profile of what Ron and Jack like in their coverage and defensive scheme. He can run a little bit. He's not the fastest guy in the world, but I think he'd be an upgrade over, say, a guy. Now, again, I don't know his special teams prowess. We know that Christian Holmes, is a special teams fiend, but Amani Oruwariye is much more of a ball hawk. He's more of a corner. He's more of a guy that you can trust putting out there. I just would love to add a little bit more cornerback depth personally. That's why most of the guys that I was eyeballing were corners, because I just don't love the depth at corner. Not necessarily. You're 1 or 2 injuries away from that position being hit hard again and it being a war of attrition. Like, I don't want to have to pull up Nick Whiteside from the practice squad. That's not my idea of helping yourself at the cornerback position. So Amani Oruwariye would be a guy I would be really interested in. And then we played against the Browns earlier in the preseason, and I think I professed my admiration for Demetric Felton Jr. He can return punts. He can return kickoffs. He's a running back. We only have 3 on the roster. And if Derek Gore is the only guy stopping you from having another running back on the practice squad, I'd say no, I'm good with that. Demetric Felton Jr. out of Cleveland with the Browns. He was cut. I thought they'd hold on to him. Clearly, they have enough at the running back position that they're excited about that they could cut him. This guy could do so many things for us. Again, punt return, kick return. He doesn't have to learn the offense. Just go back there, return kicks and punts. I'm pretty sure he was playing special teams already in Cleveland his entire career, so he's probably astute at that. I'm really interested in him because he's a dynamic guy when he touches the football. Even Brian Mitchell said, look, I like this Demetric Felton kid. I do too. I really do. And that's another name that I would go after. But those are the 3 names I would take a flyer on. Amani Oruwariye, Jabril Cox is at the top of that list. And Demetric Felton is the next guy that I would probably go after. In order, Jabril Cox, Demetric Felton Jr., and Amani Oruwariye. So tell me what you think. Any guys that got cut that you were interested in, leave it down in the comment section. Those are the 3 guys that I would be interested in. Washington has already made their practice squad. Essentially, it's done. It's 15 names. They're only missing 1. They only have 1 spot available. Again, everything's fluid, right? So keep in mind, things are subject to change. Nothing is etched in stone at this point, but I'll keep you posted if anything happens noteworthy-wise with this situation. And also, don't forget, tonight, 8 p.m. on the NFC East Super Friends YouTube channel, the NFC East Super Friends unite for the final time prior to the start of the 2023 NFL regular season. Should be one hell of a show. Make sure you don't meet me there. You beat me there. You know the vibes. Anyway, that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T. Come on, man. Post up. Take command. I'll see you guys later on tonight. Take care. Have a good one.